talk about many different things and hope you enjoy it. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So the title of my topic, or sorry, my presentation, as mentioned before, is All Things Space, in collaboration with SEDS Nepal. I did not know how to name my talk because it's not just one thing. It's going to be many different things I've been involved with throughout the years. So yeah, it's all things space, but I will try to focus on Nepal because that's what we care about here. To start off with some ground rules, please take stuff with you if you cannot take it in right now. There will be a lot of information, and I would like you to just take it back home with you if it's a lot to take in right now. The second rule is please acknowledge your body needs. An hour is a long time, so if you ever need water or need to get up and use the washroom, please do so. And the third one is let's assume good intent. If somebody asks a question or there's a discussion and something's said, or I say something, let's just all assume that we all intended in a good way. And the last one is participation is key. I don't think I can see the questions as I'm giving the presentation, but at the end of the presentation, there's going to be a question answer session. So please ask me questions if you have any questions after you see my presentation. So the next thing is limitations. I know we could talk about space forever, but we do have limitations here today. So the first limitation is time. We have 1 hour, which might exceed by a little bit, but I will try to keep it within that time. And the second one is knowledge. Please let's not forget that I'm a second-year student, and even though I've done a few interesting things here and there, I'm not like a PhD aerospace engineering like grad or anything. So I will try to talk in the best of my ability, but that doesn't mean that's like everything that you need to know. You need to do your own research and stuff. So time and knowledge are our two limitations, but except that, we are free to go. So the goals for today. The first goal I want us to keep in mind with this presentation is the framework or map. So I really want you guys to take away a way of thinking after we finish this presentation about how to approach doing a new project, or how to really approach believing that doing things is actually possible in the first place. So that's my first goal. The second goal is I want this to be an ongoing conversation. Please let's not end this conversation with this presentation. I want you guys to like talk about this outside of this presentation as well, and I hope it can be an ongoing conversation. The third one is curiosity to action. I think it's very important. If we're all here and we're all interested in space, we're all obviously very curious, but I think it's also very important to turn that curiosity into action. So if there's something that really, really inspires you, please don't be afraid to take action with it. And we'll talk more about later on. The next one is I really want you guys to be as informed and involved as possible and really engage with this entire field. But being informed is really important in this case. You can't just try to do things without doing proper research, which I'll again re-emphasize later on in the presentation. The next one is spark interest. So through this presentation, I don't know if this is the right audience to spark the interest since you guys are already here and you're already interested, but I will try to spark an interest in space and Nepal going to space. But I would also like you guys to spark interest in other people so that more people are interested in space in general. And finally, my favorite one, we are going to be playing a game at the end. So please pay attention to every single slide very, very carefully, because in the end, it will matter way more. So please pay attention. There is a game at the end. Okay, so defining some terms. I was hesitant on including the slide, but I just felt like doing it. The first definition these terms interchangeably. So I felt like it would be a good idea to just clear what each term means. So astrology is like Jyotish began, so like palm reading, constellation, and heavenly bodies meaning something and stuff like that. Um, Astronomy is like telescope, like James Webb telescope, the recent pictures we got from it, and we do astronomy from the ground using telescopes, and that's astronomy. Aerospace has two different branches, so aeronautical and astronautical. Aeronautical and astronautical I also used interchangeably, but in most cases, aeronautical means it is within the atmosphere. So planes, anything that is inside of Earth's atmosphere. And then astronautical is outside the atmosphere. So basically above Kármán line into the vacuum of space. So these are the definitions before we get started. So I just wanted to start with this quote. Albert Einstein को आशीर्वाद लिएर let's begin. Two things inspire me to awe, the starry heavens above and the moral universe within. So with that, we will start the talk. Okay, so for an overview, I will start by talking about the beginning and how I got interested in space in the first place. And then I'll talk about Mars. Mars as in like my involvement with Mars research stuff. And then my weather balloon project, which will be much more involved because I founded the actual thing. And then CubeSat project, how I'm involved with the CubeSat project, what I'm doing this summer, working as an intern, as a satellite systems engineering intern. And then I'll also talk about the future, so what I'm doing next, which is Project Possum. And then I will talk about Nepal and how we can take Nepal into space. And then politics, which seems to be the biggest barrier people think when it comes to Nepal going to space. And then also a way of living and how space inspires a way of living that is very beneficial, and also the ending. All right, so for the beginning, so the overview, it's on the bottom in every single slide, so you can keep track of where we are at in the presentation, so you're not kind of lost, because I want this presentation to be coherent and not chaotic. So the beginning days, I was always very fascinated by space. I would always go to my terrace and look up at the night sky every night. And it was like a very deep fascination since I was really young. I used to be a very curious child. I think that's my number one personality trait as well. I did the personality trait and that was the result. And I also wanted to be an astronaut, but this is a topic we're going to explore because it's not the same for me anymore, but yeah, there's something there. And also the 2015 Nepal earthquake, right? So how does earthquake and space relate? So after the earthquake happened, I didn't realize like how space and earthquake is related when I was in grade 8 in Nepal, but when I came here, and then I started researching about space and stuff, I kind of discovered many different Earth applications of space technologies, especially for disaster management and how important it is for developing countries such as Nepal. And that was when I was doing research on this company called Planet, and they do Earth imagery, and I found out that their images that the satellites took actually were used in rescue operations when there was an earthquake that hit Nepal. So I just really found that very close to my heart because I really care about Nepal, I really care about space, and I also really care about making an impact and helping people. So that was like a combined thing that encompassed all of it. So Earth application of space technology, especially for disaster management, and especially in developing countries. I really found that to be a really good interest for me in space. And then I also joined this thing called United Nations Space for United Nations Organization for Outer Space Affairs, and it's called Space for Women. And I'm involved with that as a mentee, and I have a mentor, and we meet like regularly and we talk about all of these different things. And then I also joined Air Cadets. So I came to Canada at the age of 15. Um, and I joined Air Cadets, which is this like military type of organization. And in that, I learned about like aviation, so flight and stuff. I was also an aviation instructor. And then I also learned how to shoot rifles and stuff like that. But I'm not part of the military anymore. But it was a very interesting experience and a very good segue into me adapting into Canada. So yes, Mars. I know this sounds like what is this, but so when I came here, it was grade 10. I emailed a bunch of professors because I like randomly got interested in Mars, and I was like, okay. And I randomly reached out to a bunch of professors, and one of them actually miraculously responded to me. It was just a cold email, and I met him, and then it was a really good way for me to learn about Mars in general, and his specific research field was atmospheric physics and Martian atmosphere. So he would really study like extraterrestrial like atmosphere and stuff like that. So for from grade 10 summer until half of grade 12, I met with him every Thursday for 3 hours, and I would just do like scientific journal searches and like review them and like read a bunch of questions, meet him, and then he would answer the questions, and then he would ask me questions. And because of this, I also got the opportunity to like meet a bunch of Nobel like laureates and stuff, go to their talks, and also like climate conferences, which was a really good experience for me. So at this time in my life, I actually considered going into physics research. I thought like I should just do physics research for the rest of my life, but I realized I'm a bit impatient and I like doing things like right now. And physics seemed to be like very fascinating, but to actually bring an outcome, you need like years of studying and then years of research after that. And it's still very difficult to bring a result, but some people are like prodigies at that. I'm not, so I decided to go with engineering. So next up is my weather balloon project. Yeah, I heard SEDS Nepal is doing a high altitude weather balloon project. That's very exciting. So this started after my grade 12 ended. I was sitting on my couch one day and just looking to YouTube. It was during COVID, and I randomly stumbled across this video of people sending GoPros to the edge of space. And like I looked at that video and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I have to do this. And I decided, yeah, I'm just going to do it by myself. So for 3 weeks after my grade 12 ended, I just sat and worked on this. But then I realized the more I try to do it, it's really, really difficult to do all by yourself. And I was also in a foreign country, right? So if I launch a weather balloon and it crashes with a plane, I will end up going to jail. So that's a very risky thing to do all by myself. And also there's like funding problems. I was like, okay, I'll just invest some of my own like money from scholarships and stuff. But I don't know, it just felt very, very risky. And the first time I tried to do it, I don't know, I was very much enthusiastic for the 15 days, but then it slowly like went down. But then I was, again, COVID happened. My first year of engineering was completely online, and I was sitting on my desk one night and just doing assignments. But I didn't feel like very inspired in that degree because all the hands-on projects were not happening due to COVID, and we were just doing like assignments. So I researched like the HAB thing once again because I was like, okay, that was the last time something really excited me. And I looked through the videos and I found one of a woman named Emily Calandrelli. She's also known as the Space Gal. And her video was about how she sent her pregnancy, how she announced her pregnancy using a high altitude weather balloon, and she sent it into 100,000 feet. And then that's how she announced her pregnancy. And I think before that, every video I didn't resonate with, but her video for some reason I think really resonated with me. It could be because she was a female. I think it did play a factor because I saw somebody like me do it, and that really meant a lot. So that's why I also made one of the mission objectives of my project to inspire other girls, because that's how I got started with it. And then I also realized like she has 2 degrees in aerospace engineering, one of them from MIT. And she was very, very skeptical in that video if she could do it herself. So then I started thinking like if somebody with all those qualifications can still be very doubtful of if they can do something or not, it's not about capability anymore. It's just about belief system. So I was like, okay, I don't know if I can do it or not, but we'll find out. So I restarted the project in my first semester. And then this time I made a list of all the problems I had the first time I couldn't do it. So I didn't have a team, funding, legal stuff. We have airspace laws and stuff like that. And I got 2 team members, John and Ryan, and both of them had a general interest in aerospace. And both of them are also pilots. So they both, kind of knew a bunch of things about airspace laws. So the three of us were a team, and then for the next year we worked on it. It was really, really challenging managing everything, but um, that summer, so last summer, I um, we all like did the first launch, and the first launch actually failed because of a minor helium lift calculation error that one of the teammates did. And we learned a lot of stuff with that first failed launch. And I think we need to remember that space is really, really hard, and it is um, unforgiving. So you cannot just like, I will talk about the lessons learned in a bit, but you cannot just get over like minor details. You have to be very, very like meticulous and just look at every single detail. So that was what we learned. And then after that, the next phase of the project was for me very important. And that was to spread the message as much as possible. So I worked really hard to make sure all the news outlets would get this news. And it was really, really fun also. Um, and this picture right here is the flight path. It started here in Fredericton, and then it slowly reached the peak, which is 103,000 feet, and then it got down. And there's so many interesting stories throughout this process, but yeah, this is the we had a flight computer on board, so it was calculating the altitude, pressure, longitude, latitude. We also had a GPS on board, so we could track it. And then we made a custom-made gyroscopic device so that the GPS would keep facing upwards and not downwards, because you need satellite direct contact and stuff like that. So that was our payload. And this is another thing very close to my heart. So when I envisioned this project, this was the image that was on my head. I was like, I want this image at any cost. I don't care. So this is like a environmental organization in New Brunswick. It's and I like contacted them and everything, and they had a competition within their company to choose what message will actually go into this space and stuff. So working together for the environment was the winner of that competition. So I hand painted this on this poster. I also love painting, that's why. And I did this because I wanted the project to not just be an engineering project, but also a very meaningful project at the same time, because I wanted to make an impact with this, so that and this climate message thing was so that people know that the youth this is also one of them, and I really love this one as well. So the lessons we learned is that it's very important to be research oriented and not just use common sense, because engineering is not like social sciences. Sometimes it's not very intuitive, and being research oriented is very important. It's also very important to be a good follower and then a good leader. I learned so many lessons on leadership that I can't even count right now, but it was really helpful. The third one is space is really, really hard, but very, very much worth it. After we got the pictures and all the new stuff, we were like, oh my God, we're so glad we did it. And then we also realized luck is a huge factor in this, because when our balloon actually got down, our GPS stopped working and it landed on a lake. It was in my video as well. And then a couple canoeing found it. And then I had made sure to include a waterproof contact info card on the outside of the payload. And they gave us a call, and that's how we actually found the payload. So luck was a huge factor in the success of this project. I still, to this day, I don't try to think about it too much, but I think luck is a huge factor, but it's best to act as if it's not. Like, you need to realize luck is a factor, but when you act and behave, you shouldn't act like luck is a factor. I don't know if that makes sense. And then it's also important to be very detail oriented because of the whole helium calculation error and everything. It was, yeah, you have to be very detail oriented, and story is important, at least for me. When we were going to the media stuff, people really cared about the impact piece more than the engineering piece, which we found really interesting. And then, yeah, so ending is just think about impact and it will all turn out to be great. And I just want to show this video of the balloon bursting as well. Okay. So I have some links when it comes to the balloon stuff. So the first one is a CBC article on generally how we did it. The second one is the video you guys saw in the first one of the whole, like, how we did the project. And then the third is my blog post on it. And this I go really, really in depth on exactly how we did the project. So if you're interested, you can use these links and see, like, look into it more. So the next thing I was involved in last summer was our CubeSat project at our university. So it's our first satellite that our university is making. And my job was as a research assistant. And what I did there was I first had to learn about orbital mechanics. And then there's this software called SDK, which stands for Systems Toolkit. And my job was basically to be the SDK expert. And then the thing that they actually needed from me, so the outcome was ground station access reports. So UNB is making our own ground station, which is just the thing that you connect with on the ground with the satellite and stuff. And then I also use this software called Blender to model our satellite, to import it into SDK. And then the last thing I did was power simulations. So how much sunlight does our solar panel get at every single orbit and stuff like that. So that was what I had to learn to do. And this is just one of the pictures of the interface of SDK. Here is the ground access stuff. We had 3 different ground station simulations that I had to do. And then this is just the Earth in orbit and stuff like that. So if you want to read the actual report, it's on my LinkedIn. If you're interested, you can look further into it there. And this is the CubeSat model that I modeled in Blender to import it into SDK that I just talked about. And the name of our satellite is Violet, which is the flower of our province. And yeah, I really enjoy this software because it makes me feel like I'm cool. So what I'm doing this summer. This summer, so after the last year ended, this year I applied to 2 fellowships. So the Brooke Owens Fellowship, which is a US-based one, and Zenith Fellowship. I got to the finals for Brooke Owens, and then I got Zenith. And this summer I'm working at a company called Wyvern, which does hyperspectral imaging, which I'll talk about more in a bit. Um, and I'm also involved with SEDS Nepal, like right now. And in the future, we're also planning something else. And Zenith Summit. So this fellowship has 3 components. It's leadership, mentorship, and internship. So right now I'm an intern. Leadership is we have to do our community project. We're already leaders that were chosen. And then mentorship, we all get connected to an aerospace mentor in the Canadian aerospace sector, and then we get to meet with them regularly to talk about space. So right now I'm working as a satellite systems intern at Wyvern, and what we do is high resolution hyperspectral imaging. So what is hyperspectral? It sounds fancy, but let me give you an analogy. If you look out a plane window and then you look at the ground, you see the ground, right? So that's like normal satellite imagery. You literally just send a satellite and then take images of the Earth. But hyperspectral imaging would be you look out the window of the airplane, but then you see the mineral composition of the land that you're looking at. So what is it made of? And all of his composition stuff. So there's a lot of application when it comes to hyperspectral imaging. And right now, our first application is agriculture. So, so we're using deployable optics, which is we are sending a CubeSat into orbit and then deploying a telescope. Why are we deploying it? We're deploying it because we want to increase the aperture so that more light can enter the aperture. So that's why that's the new invention of the company. So that's never been done before, deployable optics combined with hyperspectral imagery. And right now it's agriculture, but the applications are a lot in the future. And the big picture of the company is doing hyperspectral imaging of every single planet in the way future. So that's the big picture, and this company is really exciting. I have loved working there so far. It's almost been 2.5 months since I've been here, and yeah, the work culture is also great. More on that here. So I ended up skydiving a few weeks ago, and I'm also the CFO of the company. So CFO stands for Chief Fun Officer. So one of my really important tasks is to create fun in the company now. I'm also the youngest intern there. And I got to meet an astronaut recently at work, and then we do a bunch of fun things. I also made like 4 other employees skydive as well. So that's my biggest accomplishment in my life so far. Peer pressure. So what is next for me? So for me, next is many things. I like planning, but like not too much. So I try to balance the two as much as I can. So yeah, but right now in the near future, it's Project Possum, which stands for Polar Suborbital Science in the Upper Mesosphere. And it happens in Florida. And you guys heard about the whole astronaut thing in the introduction earlier. And I want to be very clear on that. This is just a 5-day training thing. It's not like I'm an astronaut. This is a marketing thing as well. People love using the word astronaut. And when I was little, I really wanted to be an astronaut. And if I wasn't an astronaut, my life would be worthless and meaningless. But that's not true anymore. It's more of a loosely held goal. That's why I like saying I want to go to space in the future if like it works out, but it's not like my life is worthless if I don't go to space. So but I'll keep doing things that will increase the probability, but even if it doesn't happen, like my life is still complete kind of thing. So it's not like I'm like astronaut or nothing, but even if I wasn't going to be an astronaut, I would do these activities anyway because it's really exciting and fun, and I think that's a good reason to do it. So what is Project Possum? So Project Possum it's like an organization that does research of the atmosphere. So my work with my professor many years ago was very helpful in my application for this, which I didn't assume it would be, but this was um, I was supposed to go to this in 2020, but due to COVID, it's just being pushed back. And the things we get to do there is high G and microgravity space physiology flight. There's also high altitude mission training in hyperbaric altitude facility. There's also spacesuit training. So this is all like actual stuff. They have a collaboration with a spacesuit making company, which they test. So it's like the future of spacesuits and stuff. These people test it in their experiments and stuff. So also like Virgin Galactic, like our suborbital flight that Virgin Galactic is trying to do, a lot of people from this program are the best candidates for that because it's just in between space and our atmosphere. So yeah. And then we also get to learn about individual instruction on scientific video camera systems, and there's other stuff as well. Right now, because I haven't gone to the program yet, I cannot talk much about the experience, but all I can say is I'm very excited for it. And if it's really good, maybe I'll give another talk. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, so now the topic we all care about the most, which is the context of Nepal. So why should Nepal go to space? This is a very important topic, and I think I just wanted to talk about this here. So the first one is independence in geopolitics. When it comes to geopolitics, you need not just land stuff, but also air and sea, but that's sea is not applicable for Nepal, so space is. So I think that's one of the things. The next one is indication of progress. It will show that Nepal is an innovative country. We like progressing and stuff like that. So what can Nepal do? So I have two things on it. It's short term and long term. For short term, I think satellites are very powerful. Also drones. I know Nepal has our own like satellite that was recently launched, but we could do more in this domain. And then if we could take back control of our TV and entertainment sector through those satellites, that would be really good. Our weather system forecasting. Nepal has glaciers, and we can use satellites to track those glaciers, and also climate change effects. I know Western countries do all the harm, and then our country like suffers the consequences. So really taking back that power. Vegetation, we're an agricultural country. This company I'm interning at right now has really connected that for me, like how space and agriculture can also be connected. Forest fire, landslide, pollution, all of these can be tracked and we can get like proper data on it. And also disaster management, like I mentioned, that can be used for rescue operations. For long term, I think our defense system would be really strong if we had more space presence. It would be an indicator of power as well. Other countries would be more hesitant to dominate us. It would be independence from India and other countries for basic technological needs like entertainment, like I mentioned before. There would be economic benefits and job opportunities. So all of you guys could stay in Nepal and work for such a wonderful purpose. International collaboration. So we could be like a very important part of a big project. So we're going back to the moon. So Nepal could be in charge of a small part of that mission, but like it has to be rightful involvement. It can't be like women in politics just for representation, right? We need proper participation, and rightful involvement is key, I think. So the next thing, anytime I say Nepal needs to go to space, the thing that always comes up is politics. Last year, I took a course. It was a 12-day course called Political Literacy for Women, and it was all about the history of Nepal's politics and stuff. And that's how I got interested in politics and space combined and stuff like that. And the two things I found to be really important is like persuasion. So how do we sell this to our leaders? Like, why should they agree to send stuff to space? I wouldn't, unless you have proper good arguments. So I think it's our job to make sure that we have proper arguments on why we should go to space. And then I also think it's not enough to be right. You also have to be effective. Like, there's all of these things where it's like, yeah, of course, obviously space is fascinating, we have to go there, but it's not enough that it's just the right thing to do. We also have to effectively be able to express that to people so that they believe in the same cause as us. So sometimes people say things like space exploration is a waste of money. There's this thing in US. Let me give you an example of the US. Um, so a Pluto like mission is $10 billion, right? That's a lot of money. And people are like, why should we spend that much money on space? But people forget that in the US, only lip balm per year has more value than the project. What I mean by that is people spend more money on lip balm, all the population combined, per year than a multi-year space project. So it's like we need to know the facts to put things into perspective and how we're not actually spending a lot of money in space, but even if we were, the benefits are beyond our like imagination. I also think people in politics should especially be interested in space. And this is one of the quotes. It says, you develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, look at that, you da 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 da. So this was said by Edgar Mitchell, who was an Apollo 14 astronaut and the sixth person to walk on the moon. So I think if our politicians could really understand this kind of space and zoomed out perspective, they would be less likely to fight with each other because our common goal would be much more clear. And sometimes another argument people make is that so you're telling me people are more interested in looking for water on Mars than helping people with poverty on Earth. So why should we invest in space if there's so many problems on Earth, right? And that's a very good question and a question that should be asked. And the answer to that question is, I think we should spend most of our resources on Earth, right? Like really investing back into solving the problems on Earth. But I think like a little bit of our money and resources should go into exploring space because of so many like benefits. And we also want an exciting future. And Elon Musk talks about this all the time. It's like we want people to have reasons to get up in the morning and feel excited about the day. And that's why if we can just invest a little bit of our resources into space, I only see good stuff happening. And also there's so many more other facts. Space technologies were the start for the invention of heart monitors, water purification systems, shock absorbers during earthquakes, memory foam, freeze-dried food, which is all called astronaut food. Also, like for the future of the country, like it adds to the body of human knowledge. It attracts young people to careers in STEM and build a global capacity for scientific and technological innovation, which Nepal would really benefit from. And it would also inspires us all for the future, like I mentioned before. The final thing is a way of thinking and living. I think space is more than just engineering. It's a way of life. And that is how I live myself. I think it inspires unity. If we look at International Space Station, that is one of the most internationally collaborated projects that exists. It's very humbling when you look at the stars. It's like, wow, we're so tiny, we are insignificant. Like I said, it makes you feel small. It gives you cosmic perspective and it provides more like significance to us. There's also a phenomenon called the astronaut overview effect, where there's a psychological change when astronauts go into space and then look down on Earth, and then like something happens to them where it's like, oh my God, like that Apollo 14 astronaut mentioned, they just get a different kind of perspective on life and Earth. It also inspires art, which I personally love, and it reinforces the essence of being a human because we are all very much connected. If we look up at the night sky, we can just know that it's a very old picture of us. So we all come from star stuff. And whenever I tell this to people that are not into space, their expression just changes, which I love. And another fact I love telling people is like, sometimes when they're shooting stars, it could be human waste that astronauts from the ISS actually let out. So you might be wishing on burning human waste, which is interesting. For an example of inspiring art, this is Starry Night by Van Gogh, one of my favorite paintings. And something I really love about this painting is this was the first time in the history of art that somebody painted something not based on how it looks, but based on how it makes you feel. And this was the first ever painting that did that, which is really inspiring. And in my own life, I also love painting, and space has always inspired me to do more art, and this is one of my own pieces. All right, now it's time for a game, like I promised. Okay, so if everybody could go to kahoot.com. After you go to kahoot.com, can you enter the PIN 590-9578? And then after you enter the PIN, you can enter a nickname, and then we'll see how much retention was there.
It seems like we'll need to sign in.
Sorry?
It seems like we'll need to sign in.
No, I think it's kahoot.it.
Oh, kahoot.it. Yeah, it's like playing with Elon Musk.
Okay. Yeah, kahoot.it.
Wow. Jagriti fan. How many people are there? 76. Oh my god. I don't think I've ever played Kahoot with this many people. Server ne crash or last. But I made sure it's possible. I'll wait 2 more minutes. Me, you. Wow. I thought it would like decrease over time, but it's on body rasa.
Wow.
Okay, let's make it to 55. 55 or 60? 55. 55. Okay, guys, so this game is like you need to be as fast as possible, but also the right answer. Right answer, but also fast as possible. And there's 3 types of questions. It's either true or false, single answer question, or you can multi-select. So there can be more than one right answer. And the questions are kind of easy, but make sure you really read the questions and the answers. Yeah. Okay, Ohio. Okay, there's still people. All right, I think we can start now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're starting. Okay. Is it true or false? Astronautics is within the atmosphere. It's false. Aeronautics is within the atmosphere. So, ooh, fast. And there's a whole board, funny. We get to see who won and stuff, guys. So, okay, this is a quiz. What height did my HAB reach? High altitude balloon. It's 13 people. It's okay. Yeah, it's 103,000 feet. Ooh, Manish. Okay. Space is hard, but nice, nice. Very much worth it. Why did 17 people think otherwise? But okay. Wow. Okay, okay. Tony is the highest climber, right? 18 places. Wow. I performed a ground access simulation on CubeSat. True or false? Wow, 11 people. Like, I did it. No, yeah, I did perform a ground access simulation. Okay. Oh, nice. Top three is constant. The quiz. Multi-select. Why is hyperspectral imaging good? Multi-select. Yes. Okay, so there are two right answers for this. So it's many Earth applications. I need more information about the composition. Top two constant. Okay. What does CFO stand for? Guys, I know this is a trick question. It's supposed to be your context, man. So it's Chief Fund Officer in this case. But in every other case, it's Chief Financial Officer. So, yes. Did people say Chief Funding Officer? Can't fathom. Guys. Okay. Yes, this was going to be the okay. Seventh question. What is not included in Project Possum? Nice. It's deep ocean diving. Yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. Maybe in the future. But yeah, that's the wrong one. Good job, everyone. Choppy, let's go. Multi-select. Why is space important for Nepal? It's a multi-select question. So all four of the answers are right, but if you selected multiple, which is all of them, you'll get more points. So, but the answer is all of them. Come back, Manish, come back. True or false? Through well-researched persuasion and effective methods, we can help reduce political barriers to go to space. Yes. 3 people. No. Yeah, so it's true. We can go to space. Okay. Multi-select. What does space help us do? Wow, who is this one person? Yeah, so the other three are right answers. It inspires art, cosmic perspective, international unity. Space is useful, guys. Okay, the last and the most important question. Manish, let's go. True or false? We can and will take Nepal to space. Amazing, guys. This is what I expect. Zero wrong answers. Okay, so I'll just conclude my talk now. But oh no, 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 winners. Sorry, sorry. Let's see who won. Third place, Jelly. I'm the Jelly. Second is Manish. Cat. Virala won. Runners up, Troppy and No Name. We only know Manish basically. So if you won, congratulations. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you so much. Okay, now I'll go back to my thing. Okay. So the core lessons. This was really fun, but I just want to give a list of lessons that have helped me do all of these things so far, and hopefully you can take something from this slide. You take them concentrated, saturated lessons. So the first one is don't ask for permission. I think sometimes the barrier we face is that we always like need somebody to have an established organization अनि मात्रै गर्छु involved हुन्छु टाइपको तर you don't have to ask for anyone's permission. Don't do something illegal. But except for that, like this, it relates to my second point, which is the world is yours. You have to feel as if that you belong in this world. Ani, this is everybody's world. My Western country man here, but that doesn't mean like I'm in somebody else's country. Earth is I'm Sabaiko, so what are you gonna do with your Earth? Like go thinking. Third one is I really love this quote by Marianne Williamson, which is that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is not our darkness, but our light that frightens us the most. So don't be afraid of the good, the light, and just think, what if it all does work out in the end? And then the next advice is, or I guess the lesson is connection around, above, and within. You need to be able to connect with people, make it relevant for them. If it's relevant to you, you need to be able to express why it's relevant to them as well. And the next one is even when I was in Nepal, it's sometimes we're like, oh, Nepal the Milena, we can't go to space. Is it possible or is it not? I don't think that's the right question to ask. I think the right question to if it's possible or not, all humans like God, if they've done it, it is possible. So the question is done.